Welcome to Butcher Block Horror Podcast, where we exhume horror movies from the past and cut into what makes them so delectable. I'm Kane.
I'm JD.
And I am Joe.
And today we're going to be throwing Pet Sematary onto the slab and carving up our favorite portions to force feed to you, our unwitting victims.
I don't want to be buried in the pet cemetery.
I hate the Ramones.
He said, I don't want to be buried.
If you enjoy the taste of these feasts of fright, then give us a like and subscribe, being sure to click the bell. Consider taking a look at our website, wegiveyoubbrainworms.com. This will let you take a look at some of the other projects we're working on and give you a link to our Patreon.
Give us your money.
Yeah, we have also created a Discord community channel. There's a link right underneath the Patreon. Feel free to drop by. There's usually one of us in there kind of fucking around, and that one of us is usually me.
Because you're a nerd.
Currently, I'm the only one that really just hangs out in the Discord.
I'll jump in there too.
But I mean, I'm marginally interesting until you get to know me. And then it just goes downhill from there.
If you can catch me at my desk, there might be two of us in there at any given moment.
If you want to message the Butcher Block on Instagram, you'll more than likely talk to me.
It's true.
And that is a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I intercept most of the harassment.
I know I've gotten some weird messages in the Yell at Us email.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're bots. I think bots are trying to send
bots
us
are
messages.
trolling us.
I think they
Do
are.
we have a CAPTCHA?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I think.
Bot trolls.
We'll have to send JD to We Give You Brainworms and see if he can get through the process of sending us an email at the Yell at Us link. That probably means our CAPTCHA isn't working and that we probably need to change it.
Haha.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah. That's a good.
All right.
It's a good slight to me.
Pet Sematary was this, what, 1989?
89, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Released in April of 1989
Nice.
with
Why
a
don't
budget
you...
of $11.5 million.
I was 4
nice.
years old when this film came out.
Shut up, Joe.
And it actually had grossed $57.5 million at the box office.
Cool. Why don't you give us a synopsis overview?
Synopsis, yes. Basically, the Creed family, Marianne, Adonis, a.k.a. Donnie, and Apollo. Oh, wait.
No.
Sorry. No, it's a different Creed family, different Creed
Do not
family.
make me put you in the penalty box, JD. Don't make me do it.
Hey, I live my life in the penalty box by now. You should
And
know
the Hurt
these.
Locker.
You should know these things.
Yeah, but don't make me put you in the Butcher Block penalty box because that is uncomfortable and all of the lube's
you could find
gone.
me
Is it all barbed
bleeding
wire
in
and
the penalty
chainsaws in
box
there?
at any given moment. Wait, the penalty box, the one under your bed?
No, that's a different penalty box.
That's the one though that you had me stay in when I slept over.
No, the penalty box that Kane has built into the back of a semi-truck.
Yeah, I've made a new one specifically for when you assholes go dicking around with the film synopsis.
I should point out that you just said assholes and dickin' in the same sentence.
Give me a fucking synopsis overview.
I'm going to if you would shut your pie taster for 30 seconds. All right, so the Creed family, they go and,
Not the fucking Rocky Creed family.
See, Kane, he was going to do it, and then you
It's
interrupted
not.
him.
Well, so like Apollo gets punched in the face by this
swear to
giant
God, JD.
Russian dude,
Fucking
and they
damn it.
bury him in an Indian burial ground that is
You know what?
cursed.
No,
and
all right, so
That
Pet
sounds like a
Sematary,
way better Rocky and Pet Cemetery.
It's a story. It's a
But-
fucking story about
I'm
the
going
Creed
to get
family.
it. Will you just... Yes, okay, can I say their names? It's Louis, Rachel, and their children, Ellie and Gage, and their beautiful cat, Church. Probably
Which is
my
dead.
It's a
favorite.
very cute cat.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous gray cat.
Was.
It was. I'm going to get to some interesting tidbits on Church, and I'll share that at, when it's my turn to speak.
You're just teasing them.
Yeah.
I am,
Yeah.
but I'm intriguing our listeners to continue to be our listeners. Anyway, this family, the Creed family, they move into a rural town in Maine called Ludlow, and from there, a bunch of bad shit starts to happen. Having a cursed cemetery in your backyard and a highway in your front yard is a recipe for a wicked shitstorm.
It really
And
is.
it presents all these dark,
wicked pisser.
malevolent forces that are unknown and horrid. So yeah, the place they move into is really a fucking doozy. They move there from Chicago. Woohoo! It's an ancient, how would you pronounce that? Micmac. Yeah, Micmac Cemetery, to be clear.
At least that's how they pronounce it in the film.
Yeah.
It's true.
I researched the pronunciation. It's supposedly supposed to be Mi'kmaq.
Well, I mean, there's many different ways to pronounce it.
Mhm.
There's Mi'kmaq, Micmac, and Mi'kmaq.
Mi'kmaq, yeah.
Yep.
Mi'kmaq, yeah.
But yes, they were an actual First Peoples tribe.
Yep.
Screen time of 103 minutes. That's my synopsis.
I mean, that's pretty short and concise. I'm actually proud of you.
People come
Seems
back
good.
from the dead. There's murderous rage, blood.
Okay, hey, you covered it, man. You got it. The synopsis is done. Why don't you tell us about the director?
I will. I think so far. So we're into season 2 of the Butcher Block Horror Podcast, and this is the first time we've been able to speak about a female director.
Oh shit, good point.
Which is very depressing.
Yeah, we should
That is depressing.
take some steps.
And yeah, I'm going to talk about Mary Lambert, who was born in Helena, Arkansas in 1951. And she got her start in 1984 in music videos. So she did some music videos, some random episodes of TV shows, and then, feature films, mainly which were horror films.
Which is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking awesome. Hell yeah, Mary Lambert. That's all I'm going to go ahead and say. Well, I'm going to go ahead and say a bunch more, but I just wanted to woo-hoo on the horror part. She got her start in 1984. She did the Like a Virgin and Borderline music videos for Madonna. She did Chris Isaac's first music video, and she did Janet Jackson's video for Nasty. Miss Jackson,
Nice.
If You're Nasty. She also directed Madonna's video for Like a Prayer, which I remember that video very vividly, and it was a pretty cool,
Yeah, that's a nice looking music video.
excellent, cinematography, and the directing of all of that was really kick-ass. So back to Mary Lambert's horror film portion of her career. She directed Pet Sematary 1 and 2, and I would like to remind our listeners that Pet Sematary, the word cemetery in Pet Sematary was intentionally misspelled. Kind of a cool little detail. She also directed the film Face of Evil, Halloween 2, and The Attic. And perhaps her most terrifying and grotesque, unspeakable piece of work was a video documentary called Bobby Brown, His Prerogative.
All right, then.
In 2009, Lambert was also interviewed in a TV documentary called Pretty Bloody, The Women of Horror. I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
I actually think that maybe we should look at, for next season,
Mm-hmm.
just doing a bunch of horror movies directed by women directors.
Hell yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. So, this film, Pet Sematary, was produced by Richard P. Rubenstein. Born 1947 in Brooklyn, New York. Best known for his work in films and some TV, mainly in science fiction and horror. So I'll preface all of this with the fact that Rubenstein and George A. Romero were pretty close friends, and at a time, they had a production company together that is known as Laurel Entertainment, and that was in the mid-70s they started that. So anyway, Romero left that in 84 to go work on his own projects, and the two remained close friends and continued collaborating and giving each other, some props here and there and some leads to work. So George A. Romero, he read Stephen King's Pet Sematary novel and was all about purchasing the rights to it. And he did so in 1984 for $10,000. And prior to this, Stephen King had been reached out to multiple offers to get the rights to make Pet Sematary into a film. And he declined all the offers. And obviously, George A. Romero asks you,
You say yes.
you're like, yes, of course. How much do you want? Yeah, here you go. Romero gets heavily occupied with his film Monkey Shines. So that's right around the time, Romero departs from Laurel Entertainment. So then the production ended up falling into the hands of Richard P. Rubenstein through, just association of Romero. I think he kind of gave him the lead on that. I like saying Rubenstein was huge into horror, and he worked on 1978's Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Martian and the Creepshow anthology.
Nice.
Yeah. So him and Romero go way back.
That's awesome. Do we have anything else on Rubinstein?
That's the extent of where I'm at with him.
Okay.
Pretty much just, that covers it.
All right, awesome. All right, Joe, you want to give us any insight into the script?
Yeah, totally. The screenplay and the original novel written by horror legend Stephen King, famous for doing all of the things that Stephen King has done. I don't feel like I need to list Stephen King's accomplishments.
No, probably not.
Writer, musician. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what Stephen King did.
That we've been jerking Stephen King off for like a month straight almost.
Yeah. We've just been giving him a constant gentle hand job.
We've unlocked a whole new color of nut for Stephen King. It is bright red now.
Gross.
I see what you did there, JD.
More interestingly,
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Oh my God. Apparently, a lot of the events of Pet Sematary, not including the supernatural elements, were actually based on things from Stephen King's life. He moved to a rural New England town by the side of a road with, heavy traffic. And the Pet Sematary in the book/movie were actually in his town with the misspelled sign. Him and his co-writer in those years, Cocaine, just got this idea about, well, what if, but evil? And he kind of spun it until the book came out. And apparently, based on interviews I read, he wrote the screenplay just because he wanted to. Was like, I might as well. If anybody's going to get the credit, they're not going to fuck it up worse than I will.
Right.
It's basically what he's saying today about it. Interestingly, he considered the novel too dark to publish until he needed to get out from under his contract Doubleday, at which point he's like, fuck it. I've got Pet Sematary in the trunk. Publish that so that I can move on to a publisher that's not going to fuck me as hard.
Right.
So he just used it.
So the only reason that we have Pet Sematary anything is because Stephen King was tired of the publisher he was currently under the thumb of.
His friends and family were like, Steve, no, you can't publish this.
Right.
It's too fucked up. You can't. And he only ultimately decided to for financial reasons.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. I hate to say this negative thing, but I'm kind of glad, if he wasn't going broke, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, getting fucked over by a publisher gave us the book, which the book is, while tragic, is fucking awesome. It's a very good book.
The book's much better than the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do love the movie. I think the movie's just amazing.
And honestly, it's the execution of the movie that makes it less good, because they're, aside from things that were obviously cut for time, they're not that different.
Right.
As, as a piece of storytelling, aside from the movie doesn't get as heavily into the Wendigo myth that was kind of behind the whole thing. And the much more telegraphed ending.
Well, and Gage is just very different in the book.
Yeah.
He knows shit.
Yeah. and again, I think that feeds back into the presence of the Wendigo.
Gage was like an awesome little Chucky doll.
Yeah, in the movie he was. And it's you can't get a 3-year-old to properly say the fucked up shit that Gage says in the book. It's just not going to happen.
I wish they had. It would have been fucking horrifying.
It would.
Mika Hughes, correct? That's the actor's name?
Miko
the little
Hughes.
Child actor? Yeah, Miko Hughes. That kid must have been so intelligent, just to be able to process what a director was asking of him.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't get a voice actor to say the things that they made that kid say.
Right.
All right. Do we have anything else on the screenplay or anything like that?
No, just because it was all Stephen King. So
Yeah. All right. Well, then why don't we move to the cinematographer?
Yeah, I can do that. Cinematographer Peter Stein. He did a lot of cinematography and DP stuff dating back to about the late 70s. NYU Film School graduate. Just a brief sampling of his work. I'm going to pick out things that amuse me. He did Ernest Goes to Jail and also Ernest Saves Christmas.
I never knew Ernest
awesome.
went to jail.
Yeah, there was Ernest Goes to Jail.
Ernest P. Worrell.
Yep.
Was it after he got scared stupid?
He went to jail before he got scared stupid.
Did he go to jail before? Okay. That's
right.
Good to know. Friday the 13th, Part 2. He was the DP of.
Which is nice.
Dude was the DP for Chud.
What?
Right?
By DP, you mean double penetration?
I do. I don't mean director of photography. I specifically mean double penetrator.
Okay, just to be clear, just so our listeners can fathom that.
He did one episode of the late 80s Tales from the Crypt television series. Good for him, I guess.
I loved that series.
I didn't watch much of it. I watched a few episodes.
Yeah, it's because you were like 3 years old.
I love that the Crypt Keeper, like, he couldn't just say, like, demise. He would have to make a pun about
every time,
like,
just
them
goofy
eyes.
puns. Yep.
Yeah.
Boys and ghouls.
Maybe that's why I pun so much.
Were you influenced by the Crypt Keeper?
Clearly.
Hell yeah. And Mr. Nanny, starring Hulk Hogan.
Isn't his name Chet Ramsey?
I don't know. I haven't actually seen Mr. Nanny starring Hulk Hogan. It looked absurd.
And I don't give a shit about
What are you going to
Hulk
do
Hogan.
when the Hulkster runs wild on you, brother?
I just know that Peter Stein pointed cameras at it.
Do you guys remember the film No Holds Barred that Hulk Hogan was in?
No.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
that
sorta.
was a bop. And the dude that played Debo in Friday, he was also in it. He was in the WWF for a while by the ring name of Zeus.
I remember that.
I didn't watch a lot of 80s wrestling. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was a thing. I'm not gonna
Some of
lie.
us were born in 1985 and
I got you.
didn't catch a lot of 80s television.
So yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the actors in Pet Sematary. The listeners may notice that we're changing up the format a little bit. Fucking deal with it.
It's to make the show harder to edit.
It is. It's to make it a big pain in the ass. So, top of the list, we got Dale Midkiff, played the ill-fated Dr. Lewis Creed, born July 1st, 1959 in Chance, Maryland. His breakthrough role was as Elvis Presley in the made-for-TV movie Elvis and Me. And honestly,
Also DP'd by Peter Stein.
he also doesn't have a lot of horror movie credits to speak of. He's mostly a television actor.
That wasn't a joke. Peter Stein also was the director of photography on Elvis and Me.
Well, that's good. I'm glad they're interconnected. Maybe that's why they
there's some
picked
fun
him.
crossover. Yeah.
But, and this is exciting, he was in Love Potion number 9 with
Nice.
Sandy Bullock. So there's at least that, right?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
your girl. your older sister
Yeah. Oh,
who would buy you
Who
alcohol.
took you out back and snuck you cigarettes. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And he was Vincent Ehrlich in The Crow Salvation, since Joe likes those terrible sequels.
The Crow Salvation sucks.
What installment of The Crow was that?
3. That was the third one.
Oh wow, I
Yeah,
haven't even.
like the first 2 are okay, and then they just go downhill.
Yeah, whatever, Joe. Then we have Denise Crosby,
Mhm.
Trauma Queen, and ultimately the oozy skull face Rachel Creed.
Mm-hmm. Some good goo.
Yeah.
Coming out of her.
The eye drainage, when she's
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah,
oh, it was so gross. I loved it.
that was a pus-filled sore, is what that was.
Oh,
Star Trek's
nasty.
Tasha Yar.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
and then her husband goes in for a deep French kiss, like
Which
as
is just
her
nasty.
eye socket is
That's
leaking.
true love.
That
I've
is
never
true
loved
love.
someone that much.
That's when
never.
I realized that I've never loved before. Is
Yeah.
I couldn't do that. I just
No,
couldn't do that.
I would have immediately attempted to. Well, to be honest, once my kid came back and tried to murder me and murdered my wife and my friend, that
Mhm.
would be it for my relationship with the cemetery. But we'll talk about that later.
Well, so Lewis was a fucking ding dong in this movie. So he buries a cat. That doesn't work out, right?
So he
Then
buries his fucking
his,
kid.
his kid. That doesn't work
Mhm.
out. So then he goes and buries his wife. And then she fucking stabs him to death. Or it's implied
something,
that she
yeah.
stabs him to death.
He
Yeah,
does some
spoiler alert.
screaming. Yeah, he does some
Yeah.
screaming. But
Again, the book
So-
does not end that way.
He got what he deserved.
yeah, he totally does.
Yeah.
So Denise Crosby was born in Hollywood, California.
Mhm.
She's the granddaughter of Bing Crosby.
Oh, nice.
But even though she was 19 years old when he died, she had never fucking met him.
Huh.
I just thought that was super fucked up.
Yeah. What was he just absent from his grandchildren's life, or like I
It
feel like
doesn't
there's a deeper
say a
story
whole
there.
lot about that. Like I couldn't find a whole lot of why. I think
Sure.
there was some issues with her father,
Mhm.
and because of that, like her mom and her dad split up, and I think that
Mhm.
split up was real nasty. And so
Oh, yeah.
because of that, there was punishment that was divvied out to the children.
Right. Like,
But
I'm
it's
not one
cool,
to
though.
gossip hound, but
Yeah, it's
I feel
cool
like there's
though,
a story there.
because she totally fired back by posing nude in the 1979 March issue of Playboy.
Whoa.
So she totally won that fight, and he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a pretty decent amount of sci-fi and fantasy cred, along with several horror projects. She was in Pet Sematary, Dolly Dearest, Relative Fear, Legend of the Phantom Rider, Mortuary, Dark Intentions, and Itsy Bitsy.
Can I ask you a quick question?
No.
Do you think Bing Crosby died when he went to go like jerk off to a Playboy and found his granddaughter as the centerfold and just had a heart attack?
That would be fucking awesome. I don't know if that's what happened, but I'm going to pretend that that's what happened.
Mm.
Let's pretend that's what happened.
And
That's how
can
he-
you for research for this episode, you referenced that issue of
I
Playboy?
did. It was very tasteful.
Mhm.
It had a very artistic appeal to it.
Mhm.
And I'm confident enraged her fucking grandpa.
Sure.
Next, we have Miko Hughes, the tragically ran over undead demon thing known as Gage Creed.
Mhm.
He was
He's
born
only two and a half.
Yeah, he was born February 22nd, 1986 in Apple Valley, California. Now, he did like a ton of acting as a child, but his horror credits are Pet Sematary and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I don't know if you guys saw that
Oh,
one.
nice.
I've not. I know about it, but I haven't seen
All right, well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
And as far as the Wes Craven's New Nightmare is concerned, he is reprising his role from that movie to do a fan film called Dylan's New Nightmare, which you can go on YouTube and look up Dylan's New Nightmare and you can see the trailer. And it's totally fucking cool, but it's been postponed due to the pandemic.
Sure.
Then we have Blaise Berdal, the annoyingly whiny, probably has the shining a little sister to Gage.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Ellie Greet. She was born September 6th, 1980 in New York City. And this is the only film credit for her that I saw. She did some television shows, but honestly, she mostly just does like announcing and narration now. But even when I was a little kid, like this character's voice just annoyed the absolute shit out of me.
Mm-hmm. Most of the casting in this movie, I just had no use for.
Yeah, some of it was rough. And then we have Brad Greenquist, Street Pizza turned Warning Ghost, Victor
Mhm.
Pascal. He was born in October 8th, 1959 in Fort Meade, Maryland. Moved around a lot due to being an army brat and was a huge horror fan from an early age. So his horror credits include Pet Sematary, The Chair, Lost Souls, The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome thing.
Yeah, great.
The Cursed and Annabelle
So was
Creation.
that my guy with half of his brain hanging on his head?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
God
Victor
damn.
Pascal.
Yeah, he had some serious bone flappage wiggling around up there, and
And brain exposure.
oh, big time.
Good, well ventilated brain.
Yeah. And being a true craftsman, aside from doing acting, he also teaches it. Like if you go to his website, you can find out where you can get into his classes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Master thespian.
Yeah. We got Andrew Hubasek, creepy spine disease sibling to Rachel, Zelda Goldman.
Very creepy.
I don't know shit about him. Everywhere I looked, the only thing I found is that he is an associate ensemble member of the Bloomsburg Theater Ensemble.
Mhm.
He has performed in and directed shows as On the Westward Trail, Y1K, Life in the Year 1000. And honestly, the only movie credit that I found was that he played Zelda in this movie. And
Could you imagine
that's all I saw.
bringing Zelda into the chiropractor? You're like all right,
fix
well, so she hasn't walked in a long time. We're going to try to stand her up, though. And, you go ahead, do your thing, work your magic.
Probably the creepiest part of the movie was the Zelda scenes, though.
No, I definitely agree with that. It was the thing that made me most uncomfortable when I was a kid.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I used to be in terror of that. Just absolute fucking terror.
And in the book as well.
Yeah, in the book, it's she's real rough in the book. And then we got Michael Lombard. He was the real piece of work, evil father-in-law that definitely deserved an
Yeah,
ass
fuck
fucking.
that guy. He
Erwin
should have
Goldman?
been beaten up.
And then there was Susan Blomert. I'm sure I'm butchering that. That's not just a bellyache, suicide, and Eeyore of the movie, Missy Dandridge. And honestly, the last two on the list, they did stuff, but I don't really want to fucking run out of time. So I'm going to talk about the real star of this movie.
Okay.
Fred fucking Gwynn. Mainer accent made me think he was really a Mainer. Dog lover and house burner turned kindly grandfather, Judd Crandall.
You should have let me do a drum roll before we announced.
I'll just
Fred
add
Gwynn.
it. I'll add it in post. Born July 10th, 1926 in New York, Fred has a decade-spanning career that involves being a Harvard grad, but unfortunately, he is most well known as the lovable parody of Frankenstein's monster, Herman Munster, from the hit TV show The Munsters. That role would actually follow him his entire career.
It would plague him.
Do you guys remember the show Punky Brewster?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
He was going to audition for the role of Henry, so we could have had like a whole other series where we got to fall in love with Fred Gwynn.
Mm-hmm.
But the fucking director referred to him as Herman instead of Fred.
Oh my God.
So he was like, fuck you, I'm leaving. I'm not putting up with this.
Right.
Fred Gwynn painted and wrote and illustrated children's books. And you know what? I don't even really want to talk about the movie anymore. I think we should just talk about Fred Gwynn.
Stephen King, in interviews, even up until a couple years back, went on record as saying that he was super impressed with his New England accent and just what he brought to that role.
Well, he's like the grandpa we all deserved.
Yeah. Or like the stand-in.
I mean, aside from instigating all of the evil shit that happened in the movie.
Well, he didn't.
Oh, you're talking
instigate
about the actor, not the character.
Yeah, I'm talking about Fred Gwynn. But I mean, in the movie,
Right.
I guess we have to talk about the movie. The
Yeah, I mean,
Wendigo
that's why we're here.
instigated everything.
Sure.
Not Judd Crandall. He was
But
just
that's
a pawn.
less clear in the movie than it is in the book.
Right. But here's a fun fact. In 1969, he was cast as Jonathan Brewster in the TV production of Arsenic and Old Lace.
Nice.
Boris Karloff had played the role in the Broadway theater production. Boris Karloff got famous and was typecast with being Frankenstein's monster.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
No one thinks that that's interesting. All right, you know what? Fuck you guys.
No, I see I see the point you're making.
Yeah.
And then
I just thought that you were going to make that point, not wait for me to say, okay, and you're so smart for figuring that out.
I need that kind of acknowledgement. It's the only thing I have left, Joe. But it's too late now.
Fair enough.
So
I would have pulled the string on my party popper if I knew you needed that. I would have said, "Oh yeah, Kane."
Yeah, it's too late though. But
Ooh, Kane.
yeah, and Stephen King
Kane, you're
cameos
so
as a
big.
minister at the funeral.
Swoon.
Yeah.
Yes, Stephen King is always making little cameos in his.
Dude, he's
I
just
like it.
sneaking himself in there. He's like horror's answer to Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Right, exactly.
All right, JD, what do we know about the special effects crew?
The special effects crew. Yes. Well, I could go ahead and start by talking about the art director, Dins Danielson.
That's a good name.
Yeah, Dins Danielson. He worked on the 1986 horror film The Hitcher, Live to Die in L.A. in 1985 with Willem Dafoe. And what else?
Friend of the podcast, Willem Dafoe.
Friend of the podcast.
Right. And he went on to become the assistant art director for the TV show The X-Files in 1998. And also was the art director for I Spit on Your Grave in 2010.
Oh, wow, the remake.
Yep. You know, this film had a hell of a lot of people involved, but I kind of keyed in on the main players. So first, I would name Lance Anderson. Uncredited, actually, was his son, David Leroy Anderson, who has his own effects studio. It's AFX Studios, if you guys have ever heard of that. And he did like The Cabin in the Woods and all that stuff. But
Oh,
anyway,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
There was some cool shit in that.
definitely. These are like effects specialists, and especially Lance. In Pet Sematary, he was credited as the special effects makeup designer. And he has like a massive list of cool shit that he's done. And really, he's brought his son into a lot of these projects. I mean, his son has his own amazing list of shit that he has done, but in combo, they were synonymous for the makeup and the effects of Planet of the Apes, obviously the remake, Dawn of the Dead, all remakes, Cat People, The Crow, Shocker, and he also did the Thriller music video for Michael Jackson. Yeah. Wait, is that porno music you're doing? Like 80s porno music?
Great music video.
Yeah.
It is.
I think that the best part of that music video is Vincent Price, and he was talking about, like, I'm going to reference it again. I loved when he said the funk of 40,000 years, because that always made me think of some
like that
deeply funky shit.
Like Funkadelic?
I love the Funkadelic so much. So, yeah, Pet Sematary, they used 9 different cats to depict the character of Church, the family pet.
Well, I mean, how many times is a cat going to survive getting hit by a truck? You know, you just got to get a new one.
Right, just grab it and just push it out there. No, actually, no animals were harmed in the making of Pet Sematary, fortunately.
No, they didn't just throw them in front of trucks to get the perfect shot?
They did not.
That they didn't even put in the movie.
Precisely. The reason they had the necessity for 9 felines was that it's fucking impossible to train a cat.
Because cats are assholes.
You go ahead and try to train a cat, and that cat's gonna fuck you up. Like, there's no shot. They have like a snuggly cat, one that's, looks like Church, and they're like, go ahead and get in the bed with the, and then they had a cat that was like all about climbing some trees, and then they had a cat that would like get into a crate peacefully. I mean, they used a cat for like every scenario.
Then there was the angry cat that hated everyone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that could have been any of the cats, because you could piss a cat off in like 2 seconds if you go at it the wrong way. So yeah, the physical effects team was led by Peter Chesney. He was instrumental in constructing a combination. Well, I mean, so were the Anderson father and son, and also John Blake. I gotta name John Blake. He was responsible actually for making the bust of Judd, like dead Judd, obviously.
Oh,
but
okay.
There were a lot of puppets made. So yeah, the Andersons and Blake, they made some different like gory looking prosthetics for this film, and they constructed a lot of puppets. And the reason being is that Miko Hughes was so young, they didn't want to traumatize him. So a lot of the puppets that they made were just recreations of Miko, so he didn't grow up to have a horrible life, with tons of fucking, I mean, imagine being covered in fake blood and pus and guts and all that shit. I mean, it would probably do some bad things to you. So in place of Miko, they used some puppets.
So was Judd Crandall when Louis Creed pulls the blanket back?
Yeah, that was a bust. That was a bust.
Not real?
Holy shit.
That was not real, yeah.
Holy fuck, dude. That was
and
good.
I saw the bust in some photographs. You can actually Google that bust, and it's remarkable. It is like every hair on it is, I mean, when you look at it in the film, I have to say it's a little more convincing. Studying it as a prop, you could pick it out that it's not,
sure.
But in the film, just, when they flash to it quickly, I mean, it was like a total lights out horrific sight.
Yeah, like I thought that they had Fred Gwynn just lay there with makeup on. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
apparently not. Apparently they had
not,
a whole fucking bust.
Yeah, and same with Gage. There are a few scenes where he's just kind of like sinking down into the floor, after he was stabbed in the neck with that serum, whatever was in the syringe, whether it be some type of poison or a tranquilizer or just whatever the dad used to get him to be dead again, Lots of prosthetic, lots of puppet effects, lots of kind of gory and fake bloody type of shit. And really, I loved all of the... that scene at the end of the film, that was my favorite bit of gore in the film, where the mom comes back and that eye socket was just fucking gruesome.
Yeah, it was. Just leaking.
I have to mention that, again, they didn't really go like blood red with the blood in this film. They used more red blood on Church, but there wasn't a whole lot of red blood. The blood was like kind of runny and yellowish, a lot of it. And then there was more like depictions of like pus and other bodily fluids. So the blood was a little bit diluted. It wasn't like the bright red.
The liquid coming out of her face at the end, I never saw that as blood. I always saw that
was like pus
and shit like that.
Cerebrospinal fluid.
Yeah, because that never looked like blood to me. You know,
Yeah.
like the blood that you see coming out of Judd Crandall's fucking Achilles tendon, and then the blood that you see after Gage takes a chomp out of him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I considered that stuff to be completely different than the goo that just goes oozing out of her eye socket at the end of the film.
Yeah, it had like a very like a cooked meat look to it. It just was nasty.
It was pretty gross.
Yeah.
All right. Do we got anything else?
Yeah, I'm going to add real quick. Zelda, her back, there were a bunch of like cool prosthetics involved with that to make that gnarly looking spinal cord that was all twisted. I forgot what she was supposedly afflicted with again as far as
spinal meningitis.
Goes. Spinal meningitis. Holy fuck. If there's a reason to not get spinal meningitis, that would be it. And I remember hearing about that as a child and seeing Pet Sematary and being like, well, fuck if that happens to me. Just take me out in the backyard and get your shotgun and like... Where the fuck was Fred's shotgun in this movie? Like, how did he not have that shotgun?
You know,
a guy like that...
maybe because they didn't want to film him blowing a fucking child into chunks. With buckshot.
He didn't have to blow the child away. He could have started with Church, the cat.
Yeah.
I mean,
even then, though, that would have been unpleasant.
That cat had it coming, though, man. I mean, and I love cats. I'm an animal lover, but that thing was like, Lethal Weapon on fucking four legs, man. That thing was like the Wolverine.
It was bad news, man. It was bad news.
It really was. That he didn't fucking play.
No. He was like a fucking evil sidekick to Gage at the end.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I honestly kind of wanted more of. Just Church being Gage's evil murder familiar. I could have done with some more of that.
Again, I think that the biggest issue with that is trying to get a 3-year-old to have those lines.
Right. And the more they use the puppet, the worse it would have looked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the stuff that they were able to get Gage to say was pretty fucking good.
Right.
I mean, the laugh got real annoying because it was like, oh, it sounds so forced. But like him saying no fair multiple times after his dad juiced him with whatever that concoction was in the syringe.
Yeah.
Just knowing that he was going to die again. And instead of being like, well, I'm taking you with me, Dad, he's just like, man, I'm really disappointed. Like, this is not fair. I should have been able to kill hundreds of people.
And I got to ask too, like, so what kind of medical doctor was their dad, Lewis? What was up with that bag? Was he like
I think he was just the GP
Holmes or something? Is he Jack the Ripper? Like, who's got a bag like that?
Because he was kitted out like a World War II field surgeon.
It was like a scalpel with a fucking, in a leather case with a red velour padding to it. I'm like, how... And how does Gage know how to like even open that old ass bag?
he was evil. So
did he have the at 2.5? Do you have the motor skills to pull all that off?
You do if you're being possessed by
I get it.
millennia old. I guess he was like a god of undead,
tortured spirit.
Yeah.
Well, the Wendigo.
I mean, not an accurate representation of that folktale at all.
Would someone please start a band called the Wendigo Girls?
I would be surprised if there wasn't one.
Okay.
Well, speaking of bands.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If there's not, you're welcome.
I'm going to talk about the score.
If you want.
All right. So the score was done by the award-winning composer Elliot Goldenthal, born May 2nd, 1954 in Brooklyn, New York. And he's been referred to as the thinking man's composer. I don't
know aren't most composers?
Yeah, that was my thought too, but that was the information.
Sure, why not?
But he scored
Maybe he
everything.
just made compositions for very intellectual men.
Did he use like weird time signatures?
Well, he scored everything from horror to Shakespeare adaptations.
Okay.
I personally thought that the score for this movie was really fucking good.
Yeah, the score was great.
It really sets a mood and you can't really shake it off. Like this dude won an Academy Award for Best Original Score for the movie Frida, which was directed by his longtime partner, Julie Taymor.
Thanks.
And he also scored, what about Interview with a Vampire?
I'm not going to list everything he's done because we would have to start a new podcast called Elliot
List the
Goldenthal,
cool shit that he's done.
Thinking Man's Composer, to really like dig
I
that
would like
deep.
to be on that podcast and just talk about his compositions.
I'm going to add a few that I liked. I liked that he did Interview with a Vampire and Alien 3.
Well, Alien 3 is a giant bag of shit. So
It's a bad movie. Although I'll go to my grave saying that Interview with the Vampire was dragged down by horrible casting.
I actually still think Interview with the Vampire is a good movie. So
Yeah, we've had words
I love it.
about
I love that
before.
movie.
I think Tom Cruise just fucks it all up.
It's a great bedtime story.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know that I feel like Tom Cruise fucks it up that much. Having seen Queen of the Damned.
Queen of the Damned sucked, but for other reasons.
Well, I think that the Lestat in Queen of the Damned was fucking garbage.
I won't defend the Queen of the Damned film because it was not a good movie, but I might argue that guy, I don't even know that actor's name, would have been a better Lestat. We have gone on a wild tangent.
We're gonna move away from that. I would like to say, like I said, I did not go over everything that Elliot Goldenthal's done because we just don't have that kind of time. But he's pretty phenomenal, and I think it helped this movie in particular.
Yeah,
because
right,
the cheesy like jump scares involving the cat and shit like that.
Numerous
actors
weren't jump scares.
Yeah, it's some of the acting that was just awful. Having that music as the backdrop created enough of like a scary feeling to the movie that it really pulled it up. I'd argue that he holds Richard Band's work underwater and puts it in a headlock until it cries uncle. and I love Richard Band. I'm a huge fan of his work. But the score that he did in this movie that Elliot Goldenthal did
was super good.
I don't think you can compete with it. I've yet to hear, aside from, and this is just a niche thing, like I have a particular love of Goblin and that style of horror movie scores, but I think that Pet Sematary may be my favorite score.
Sure.
Like I actually
it's pretty damn good
to the Pet Sematary score by itself. Like I just listened to that score.
Well, the soundtrack is also, it has the Ramones on it, which I enjoy the Ramones.
I hate the Ramones.
The original Suspiria had a very good score as well.
Though that's Goblin. Yeah, that's Goblin.
Yeah.
But I would like, if you want to have that, like, what's the best soundtrack?
It rivals Pet Sematary for sure. Yeah.
That one specifically, I would throw.
It's pretty fucking good. It's hard to compete with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the score. Now we're going to go ahead and talk about our personal experience with the movie. So Joe, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Sure. I read the book quite a few years before I saw the movie. Blew my mind. Great, Then I just kind of saw the movie as a horror movie, and then I watched it with you guys for this. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's a good horror movie drugged down by about half the either the acting or the directing. I'm not sure which, because sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. Just phoning it in.
Like the cat jump scares.
Yeah, and the cat jump scares. So really, like, that's my commentary, is just to point out the things I liked and complain about the things I didn't. If I have to ask the listeners anything, I would say let's continue the conversation about, what's your favorite horror movie soundtrack? The Wendigo myth that was heavy in the book was underutilized in the movie.
Yep.
And it made you really have to read between the lines to figure out, like, oh no, these people aren't just acting against their own interests because they're poorly written characters. There's a supernatural force behind the scenes influencing them.
Yep.
And I thought the movie could have sold that a little harder.
Yeah.
Agreed. JD?
Yeah. So if I saw Church pop out one more time,
yeah, for real. Holy shit.
Yeah. I mean,
that's why they
excessive.
got 9 cats, one for every jump scare.
I mean, yeah, it was an excessive amount of jump scares involving Church, specifically Church. There were few other jump scares. It was
Yeah,
just
it was
this
pre-
fucking cat
They
over
weren't
and
even
over
great
again.
jump scares.
Yeah, pre-undead
were
church,
okay.
and then undead jump scares. Like they had the
Yeah.
pre-undead.
The first two.
Right.
The first two were strong, but after that, it was like, okay, I've seen this happen enough times.
It's made its point.
Yeah, the other, to your point, Joe, one of the things that would indicate for me that the spirit of the Wendigo was driving this wild ride was Judd's vitality to climb all that way
Sure.
to take Lewis through that path and then across the cemetery and then up this fucking crazy, like, bouldering,
Cliffside?
Yeah, it was like, what level of physical endurance would it have taken to actually get up there? And however old of a character Judd was depicting was beyond competent to go ahead and do that. And then they get up to the top, and what does he say? Oh, you got to dig the hole. I'm going to have a cigarette. Like, what? Like, get the fuck out of here. You're a smoker too, and you're able to. So I'm like, that was a Wendigo doing that shit. There's no way that. Yeah, I mean,
Judge Crandall was just a hard ass.
I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, but I do agree that may have been kind of a subtle indicator that there were
Too subtle.
This old man's just fucking hoofing it up the side of this mountain.
he had his own set of bad experiences with what happens when you bury anything in the fucking cemetery or on that burial ground. So it's like something must have possessed him because he, his own experience, he had his dog and then there was the person who they ended up burning. And what an odd response, by the way, too. So the zombie, comes back from the dead and they have to burn his whole house down. They have to. They can't just take him and shoot him in the head or
long-term solution to a short-term problem.
Yeah, just an interesting way to go about that as an issue. Like, let's burn this shit down, man. It was like they were, I don't even know, listening to like The Chronic or something.
Well, no, I think sometimes what it boils down to is you're like, okay, this guy is an unnatural monster, and there's only one choice. It was Timmy Baterman, and the only choice is to burn it, and he won't come out of the house, so we're just gonna burn the whole house.
Well, I feel like it may be because I've experienced a different region of rural people, but my first thought was, why didn't they just shoot it?
That was my sentiment exactly.
That might be, maybe even in the mid 70s when Pet Sematary came out, maybe there were just, or no, because that part was in like the 20s or 30s. It was way back when. So maybe there's some kind of firearm availability situation that would have affected that. I don't know. But setting the whole ass house on fire seems like an extreme response to me.
Yeah, you know what? I think burn it down.
Maybe it was that pesky Wendigo spirit again.
No, I don't think
compelling
the Wendigo doesn't want his constructs, like the things that he's affecting. He doesn't want them destroyed. He wants them to bring more people to the cemetery.
Yeah. Also, Kane, I think you're just compelled to start fires.
I mean, it's possible. All I'm saying is that if I have two options, right? It's to drag the undead demonic thing out of his house and shoot him to death, or throw Molotov cocktails through the window and burn
why not
him
just shoot him to death in his house and then drag him out, though?
Yeah, then the movie would have turned into a Bronx Tale instead of Pet Sematary if they're using like Molotov cocktails. They're like 50s gangsters.
Look, you kill the undead demons your way, and I'll fucking kill them my way.
Yeah, you do you. You got to do you. That's what life's all about. even the afterlife in this case.
Yep.
All right, and then JD, do you have a thing that you'd like to throw out into the ether, or was that it?
Yeah, just how many jump scares would our listeners would they like to erase from this film? I would happily erase 6 or 7.
Yeah. Like I kind of want to follow JD around his life, like your place of business, your home, with a cat, and just every now and then jump out and bah! and see how many times I do that before it stops being startling.
Before he just punches you in the face.
Yeah.
I did love the first jump scare in the film where Lewis like wound up like he was about to punch Church in the fucking chops.
yeah, he was knuckles
That was
up,
good.
ready.
Yeah.
To just fucking
That
sock
was my
that guy.
favorite.
Yeah.
But after that, the jump scares took a steep decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they went off road, and then I
And
suffered.
then it just seemed lazy.
Yeah, I was
At
like,
that
okay,
point,
this is bummy. I'm not feeling these.
Dummy.
I'm like, you're gonna have to do better than that, Church. You frisky fucker. Okay, so Kane, what are your thoughts on this?
All right. Well, I mean, my personal experience with the film was I saw it maybe a couple of years after it came out in theaters, but not many. I mean, I might have seen it like right after it was available for rent at a video store. And the Zelda scenes
Yeah, that shit was creepy.
absolutely terrified me. The weird fucking painting that you see at her parents' house.
So
And
real
then-
quick, can I draw a line through the film involving that painting? The character in that painting had a specific outfit on. That
It's Gage.
outfit was worn by Zelda, but it was also later on worn by Gage.
Yeah, the top hat was, I mean, that was just creepy. That painting,
Yeah.
because it showed up everywhere. Like it just kept
He was like a
showing
cross
up.
between Chucky and Tom Petty for a second, and I thought that was kind of like a strange outfit.
I'm just
But no,
thinking about
I
Chucky with an
had
electric
fucking
guitar.
nightmares about Zelda.
Oh, I did
Like-
too. I did
Like
too.
that movie monster scared the shit out of me. And even as a kid, I adored Judd Crandall and was super, super sad when he gets killed. And I still love the movie to this day. Like I've seen the remake, and I'm glad that they were trying to go a certain way with the remake, but it just doesn't compete with the original as far as
Sure.
I'm concerned.
I'm pretty tired of horror films getting remade. I'll just throw that out there. I haven't seen a good remake yet.
Suspiria.
Yeah.
And that's an actual remake with some slight variations in the story.
Yeah. Variations are fine, but when they try to go
But
in
like
and
Evil
like,
Dead, the is more like a soft reboot and less of a remake.
I really liked the Evil Dead remake.
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was so good. Which is funny because I was super pissed when I found out they were doing it, because Evil Dead is by Star Wars. So I was
Yeah.
so mad about it. And then I read an interview with Bruce Campbell. And he was like, look, I get it. Fans, I get it. I know why the idea of this is so offensive to you. But I want you to understand that when we made Evil Dead in, 79, it came out in 83, but they made it in like 79. He's like, when we
Yeah.
made that, we wanted it to be scary. Like we wanted it to scare people, and everybody just laughed.
right.
This movie is going to have the resources necessary to actually make the scary film we wanted to make. So
Mhm.
at least give it a chance.
Right.
And then I did.
Hmm.
And I loved it. I thought it was great.
So I boycotted that one. I still haven't seen it all the way through
It's
because
good.
I was so mad that it was remade that I just said, nope, sorry, I can't do it.
Well, you missed out because it's a really good film.
I mean, it's still out there. It's not like he had
Nope,
one
nope,
opportunity.
he can never
No?
watch it now. He's
Okay.
forbidden.
I'm sure I will eventually.
Nope, not
but-
allowed.
Apparently, Kane says no. But if you want to be naughty, like I'll watch it with you and then have a
I
conversation.
do
I
want to
kinda
be
like this
naughty.
too.
I do.
Kinda like
I'm
this
into
too.
being real naughty.
Regardless.
Just don't tell Kane.
Yeah, don't
It's
don't tell
fine.
me.
It could,
Let me
it could be our little secret.
let me
He might
accidentally
punish us.
find out. Let me accidentally find out by going into the butcher block while you guys are watching it.
I wonder what's going to happen.
Oh, maybe some spankings.
Footsteps in the dark around Kane.
All right. Hey, if you guys watch Pet Sematary from 1989, let us know what you think.
Rachel.
Does anybody have anything else they want to say before I close this out?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I think everything has been expressed sufficiently on
All right.
my end.
Well, you can find us at wegiveyoubrainworms.com as well as most places
Indeed.
podcasts live. And God, this was so annoying. So I finally went through the process, and now you can find Butcher Block on Apple iPod.
Yeah, getting on
podcasts.
Apple Podcasts is such a fucking chore.
It was a giant pain in the ass. I had to install iTunes and all of this shit. And then once I installed iTunes, I was able to upload my podcast, which was stupid. They make you jump through that hoop.
Yep.
But now you guys have access to us on Apple Podcasts if people actually listen to podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Also, you can send us a message either at our website or YouTube and whatnot. And we warn you against forgetting to like, follow, and subscribe.
Ooh, that would be
And
bad.
click the bell.
And click the bell.
Would someone please start a band called the Wendigo Girls? That cat had it coming, though, man. I mean, this is bummy.